2 Kings chapter 10 verse 1. Ahab had 70 sons living in the city of Samaria. So Jehu wrote letters and sent them to Samaria, to the elders and officials of the city, and to the guardians of King Ahab's sons. He said, verse 2, the king's sons are with you, and you have at your disposal chariots, horses, a fortified city, and weapons. As soon as you receive this letter, verse 3, select the best qualified of your master's sons to be your king, and prepare to fight for Ahab's dynasty. Verse 4, but they were paralyzed with fear and said, we have seen that 2 kings couldn't stand against this man. What can we do? Verse 5, so the palace and city administrators, together with the elders and the guardians of the king's sons, sent this message to Jehu. We are your servants and will do anything you tell us. We will not make anyone king. Do whatever you think is best. Verse 6, Jehu responded with a second letter. If you are on my side and are going to obey me, bring the heads of your master's son to me at Jezreel by this time tomorrow. Now the 70 sons of the king were being cared for by the leaders of Samaria, where they had been raised since childhood. Verse 7, when the letter arrived, the leaders killed all 70 of the king's sons. They placed their heads in baskets and presented them to Jehu at Jezreel. Verse 8, a messenger went to Jehu and said, they have brought the heads of the king's sons. So Jehu ordered, pile them up into 2 heaps at the entrance of the city gate, and leave them there until morning. Verse 9, in the morning he went out and spoke to the crowd that had gathered around them. You are not to blame, he told them. I am the one who conspired against my master and killed him, but who killed all these? Verse 10, you can be sure that the message of the Lord that was spoken concerning Ahab's family will not fail. The Lord declared through his servant Elijah that this will happen. Verse 11, then Jehu killed all who were left of Ahab's relatives living in Jezreel, and all his important officials, his personal friends, and his priests. So Ahab was left without a single survivor. Verse 12, then Jehu set out for Samaria. Along the way, there while he was at Beth-Eked of the shepherds. Verse 13, he met some relatives of King Ahaziah of Judah. Who are you? He asked them, and they replied, we are relatives of King Ahaziah. We are going to visit the sons of King Ahab and the sons of the queen mother. Verse 14, take them alive, Jehu shouted to his men, and they captured all 42 of them and killed them at the well of Beth-Eked. None of them escaped. Verse 15, when Jehu left there, he met Jonadab, son of Rechab, who was coming to meet him. After they had greeted each other, Jehu said to him, are you as loyal to me as I am to you? Yes, I am, Jonadab replied. If you are, Jehu said, then give me your hand. So Jonadab put out his hand, and Jehu helped him into the chariot. Verse 16, then Jehu said, now come with me and see how devoted I am to the Lord. So Jonadab rode along with him. Verse 17, when Jehu arrived in Samaria, he killed everyone who was left there from Ahab's family, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Verse 18, then Jehu called a meeting of all the people of the city and said to them, Ahab's worship of Baal was nothing compared to the way I will worship him. Verse 19, therefore summon all the prophets and worshippers of Baal, and call together all his priests. See to it that every one of them comes, for I am going to offer a great sacrifice to Baal. Anyone who fails to come will be put to death. But Jehu's cunning plan was to destroy all worshippers of Baal. Verse 20, then Jehu ordered, prepare a solemn assembly to worship Baal. So they did. Verse 21, he sent messengers throughout all Israel, summoning those who worship Baal. They all came, not a single one remained behind, and they filled the temple of Baal from one end to the other. Verse 22. And Jehu instructed the keeper of the wardrobe, be sure that every worshipper of Baal wear one of these robes. So robes were given to them. Verse 23. Then Jehu went into the temple of Baal with Jonadab, son of Rechab. Jehu said to the worshippers of Baal, make sure no one who worship the Lord is here, only those who worship Baal. Verse 24. So they were all inside the temple to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Jehu had stationed 80 of his men outside the building and had warned them, if you let anyone escape, you will pay for it with your own life. Verse 25. As soon as Jehu had finished sacrificing the burnt offering, he commanded his guards and officers, go in and kill all of them. Don't let a single one escape. So they killed them all with their sword, and the guards and officers dragged their bodies outside. Then Jehu's men went into the innermost fortress of the temple of Baal. Verse 26. They dragged out the sacred pillars used in the worship of Baal and burned it. Verse 27. They smashed the sacred pillars and wrecked the temple of Baal, converting it into a public toilet, as it remains to this day. Verse 28. In this way, Jehu destroyed every trace of Baal worship from Israel. Verse 29. He did not, however, destroy the gold calves at Bethel and Dan, with which Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had caused Israel to sin. Verse 30. Nonetheless, the Lord said to Jehu, you have done well in following my instructions to destroy the family of Ahab. Therefore, your descendants will be kings of Israel down to the 4th generation. Verse 31. But Jehu did not obey the law of the Lord, the God of Israel, with all his heart. He refused to turn from his sins that Jeroboam had led Israel to commit. Verse 32. At about that time, the Lord began to cut down the size of Israel's territory. King Hazael conquered several sections of the country. Verse 33. East of the Jordan River, including all of Gilead, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh. He conquered the area from the town of Aroi by the Arnon Gog to as far as north as Gilead and Bashan. Verse 34. The rest of the events of Jehu's reign, everything he did, and all his achievements are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Verse 35. When Jehu died, he was buried in Samaria. Then his son, Joahaz, became the next king. Verse 36. In all, Jehu reigned over Israel from Samaria for 28 years. Amen.